Good evening, everyone. This is Dr. Karen here. Of course, I'm the founder of Sister Leaders, and we are excited. You've seen the posting, you know who's on deck this evening, and we're trying to hear what she has to put down. And look, I am excited. I'm in my mode already. I got my pen, I got my paper. And so we have none other than Dawn Love in the house. Dawn, take it away. Introduce yourself to the Sister Leaders community, and you have the stage.
All right. Thank you, Dr. Karen. Hey, everyone. I'm Coach Dawn. I am speaker, author. I am faith based health and wellness coach. And I help women, especially divorced and single moms, I help them unmute their voice, unlearn the lies, and unbind their God given potential so that they can live bold, healed, and uncompromised. And so tonight we're diving into the power of the two letters, UN. Yeah, it's a prefix. Those two little letters that flip the script on everything life tried to label you. And so this session is about unlocking the version of you that was never meant to stay broken, silent, or even small. And so when I think about those letters, I think about just how wild those two letters can carry so much weight of freedom, identity, power, all at the same time. If you think about some of the words that we have, those unscripted moments, an unword, like I said, can kind of change. So you can be unsure, but now you're unstoppable. You can be unworthy, but yet you can be unshaking. And so what I thought about the word or the prefix is that it means not bound by what was. It flips the script on everything that tried to stick to you. And if you've been carrying those labels, those lies or limits that were never yours to begin with, I think tonight is your moment to let them go. And so I want to share with you just a few things. See, there was a time in my life when everything looked good on the outside, but on the inside, I was drowning. Divorce had knocked the wind out of me. I didn't lose my husband, I lost a version of myself. I didn't even realize I had built my life around someone else. And by doing that, and the moment we separated, I lost my voice. I lost my confidence. I lost the security I thought I had finally figured out. And suddenly, there I was, those two little letters. I was uncovered. I was unprepared and unrecognizable, even to myself. And so the thing about that, in that moment, shame became my shadow. I smiled in public, but I sobbed in silence. I prayed out loud, but questioned God behind closed doors. And somewhere between wiping tears and wiping behinds, I found myself a single mom, raising three boys, trying to be everything for everybody while feeling like I was nothing to anybody. But let me tell you when it started to shift. One night, I sat in the dark, alone, quiet, and done. No more pretending, no more performing. I whispered a prayer that wasn't deep or poetic, just these little words: God, if there's anything left in me, uncover it. And that's when it began. God didn't fix everything overnight, but He started undoing what the world had done. He began to unshackle my shame. He began to unravel the lies. He began to unmute my voice. He reminded me that I'm not too broken to be rebuilt. I'm too chosen to stay bound, and so are you. The thing about it is, you don't need another mask. You don't need permission to become who He already ordained. You just need the boldness to believe that what's been undone in your life was never meant to define you. And so, if you're ready tonight, if you will, drop in the chat. I'm going to drop this line in the chat, and I just want you to understand and say yes if you agree. I'm ready to unbecome everything I was never meant to be. So if you agree with that, drop yes in the chat. All right, let's go. And this brings me to my first point. The first thing is you have to learn to unmute your voice. Let me tell you, I've always loved words. Child, I was always that little girl standing in front of a church crowd reciting poetry like I was Maya Angelou's goddaughter. I'd also love to preach and I love to sing. I love the sound of my own voice, not because I thought I was all that, but because there was something about the rhythm of my voice. There was something about the power in it, the presence it gave me. For just a moment, I would feel seen, I felt heard, I felt whole. But somewhere between loving a man who didn't love me back, being misunderstood one too many times, and making decisions that left me side-eyeing my own reflection, I stopped speaking up. Not with my mouth, because I could talk, and baby, I could talk, but I was muted myself. I became selectively silent, saying just enough to seem strong, but never so much that anybody could actually see me. I let the shame hold the mic. I let other people's opinions control my volume. And let me tell you, I started shrinking in rooms I had outgrown just to keep from being too much for people who never had the capacity in the first place. But here's something about silence. It can feel safe. It can feel okay until it starts suffocating you. See, I became fluent in shrinking, smiling when I wanted to scream, nodding yes when I really wanted to say no, apologizing for existing with a full heart and a full plate, whispering my needs while shouting everyone else's. You ever been there? See, even as a single mom, I felt like I had to be everything. The mama, the daddy, the banker, the counselor, the referee, the prayer warrior, the chef, and let's not forget the emotional trash can for everybody else's mess. And through all of that, I still muted me. I muted the parts of me that needed space. I muted the pain that it didn't look polished. I muted the dreams that didn't seem doable. I muted my truth because truth sounds loud when you've been taught to stay small. But here's what I've learned. Muted women become miserable warriors. You still show up, but you show up unfed. You still serve, but from an unfilled place. You still speak, but only in ways that don't rock the boat. See, God didn't call you to be a watered down version of someone he crafted. He actually handcrafted with fire. But one weekend, I went on a women's retreat. And it was 3 days. And on that very last day, I heard someone say, "Your silence is costing people their freedom." That wrecked me. It tore me up on the inside because I realized my voice wasn't just for me, it was for someone else's breakthrough. And if the enemy couldn't destroy me, he'd try to mute me. Because once I began to speak, I noticed everything would shift. But then again, I had to understand, and you do too, you have to understand why you went mute in the first place. Now, I shared my story with you, but some of us, we mute ourselves because fear of being misunderstood, fear of rejection, fear of just failure. Those are things that we go quiet, and others have been overloaded with criticism and undernourished by encouragement. You get tired of explaining, so you stop. But know your voice today is not too much. It's just enough to change the lives of the people that you were called to. So today, I challenge you to acknowledge where you muted yourself. Identify your sound. Speak, even if it shakes, and start small, but start somewhere. You will never be whole in what you're afraid to speak. And some of us are not broken, we're just unspoken. So it's time to unmute your voice. Your story matters. Your truth matters. In fact, you matter. And I know there have been times that you've been afraid to say things out loud. And it's okay. But know your voice is costing someone's freedom if you don't learn to speak up. Which now leads me to my point number 2 is we have to unlearn the lies. Now, I know maybe you have and maybe you've seen, but the majority of this world have seen the movie Coming to America. And it stars Arsenio Hall, and it definitely stars Eddie Murphy. And there's this hilarious but low-key deep scene where King Jaffe Joffer, he comes to New York looking for his son, Prince Akeem, who had been dating this non-royal by the name of Lisa. He walks into Lisa's family home, all royal and regal with lions on his shoulders. And the dad, when he sees the king, he's really starstruck. He's like, wow, he's looking at him and his wife and his entourage, and he's totally starstruck. Fast forward, the scene moves where Lisa, the father, Hakeem, and the sidekick, Arsenio Hall, they're all standing in the room. And they're having a conversation when the younger sister walks in like she's just cracked the Da Vinci Code, and she says, Hakeem's not the prince. He is. She's pointing to the wrong man, Arsenio Hall's character, who was just his faithful sidekick. And do you remember what the king said? He didn't get mad. He didn't go off. He just looked at her and he calmly said, who told you that? Phew, that line right there, actually it'll preach, but let me stay on track. He said, who told you that? Because that's what we need to start asking ourselves when we repeat stuff that never came from God. Who told you that? In other words, the king was saying, who told you that lie? And see, in that moment, everyone looked at Arsenio Hall, the sidekick, as he starts to back off like, I've been telling her these little white lies. He was full of lies, and the sister believed him. And the thing about it is, we do the same thing, but sometimes we do it to ourselves. Who told you you're too damaged to be told whole? Who told you your story disqualifies you? Who told you you'll always struggle, never rise, never be loved for real? See, if you think about it, and I want you to know this, there's a special kind of damage that comes from the lies we've absorbed, and not just the ones we've heard. The kind we don't even question anymore because they've become part of our internal wiring. Some of the most dangerous lies are the ones we've believed for so long. They start sounding like our own voice. Let me tell you, if you will, humor me for a moment. We're going to pause right here for a moment and do a little heart work. Not hard work, but heart work. I call this rewrite the lie. So for so long, I know there's something you've been repeating to yourself that was never yours to carry. But tonight we're going to flip the script right here, right now. You can write it on a piece of paper, or if you're brave enough, you can drop it in the chat. Number 1, I want you to write down one lie you've believed about yourself. And then secondly, I want you to cross it out, literally cross it out, strike through it like it no longer has authority. And I'm going to drop this information in the chat. So I want you to write down one lie you've believed about yourself, cross it out, literally, strike through it like it no longer has any authority, right? I would never lose weight. Okay, good one. If you cross it out, what would you say? I will lose weight, right? So sometimes we tell ourselves, and I'm going to give you my examples. I'm too broken to be used. That's what I literally used to tell myself. I'm too broken to be used. But now, as I've grown and I fully matured, I say I'm unbreakable, I'm unhidden, and I'm unconditionally loved by God. Then I also wrote to myself, I'm gonna drop this in the chat. I will always struggle because that's something I've always done. I've always struggled. But now I say I'm unstuck and I'm walking in my divine provision. See, what I realize, you say that one negative thing, but then you come back and you empower yourself. See, some of us doesn't realize when we write down those things, exactly, our words have power. We write down that negative, but then we write something empowering, right? And if we do that, we begin to see some generational patterns broken with just that one sentence alone. We tell ourselves the lie, but then we turn around, we reconstruct it, and then we choose something positive, and it makes us feel so valued. That's a good one. I'm not valued. God said you are valuable. That's why I chose you. Awesome. See, the thing about it is, the truth doesn't just set you free. It undoes everything false that tried to define you. We used to believe a lie about ourselves, but we reframe it and we say something positive, and that's how we begin to, break those lies that we tell ourselves. Again, I go back to when I became divorced. I didn't lose a relationship. I almost lost my identity. I thought being strong meant being silent. I thought struggling meant I was failing. I thought needing help made me weak. And I thought that because someone else mishandled my heart, I was somehow unlovable. But here's the truth. You are not the lie. You are the lesson. You are not the lie. You are the lesson. And you can't grow where lies have taken root. You have to unlearn what life, trauma, and people taught you in survival mode. Identify the lie that's running your life, find the root, replace it with God's truth. Repeat. Identify the lie that's running your life, find the root, and then replace it with God's truth. And sometimes change doesn't start with a miracle, it starts with your mindset. It doesn't start with just something poof, something magical, or like a miracle like. It starts because we did a mind shift change. You just need the courage to say, this isn't true about me anymore. Because what you refuse to unlearn, you will eventually repeat. And so we have to learn that we identify what's the lie that we've been telling ourselves, find the root of it, and then replace it with God's truth. And it's simply just doing a simple mind shift, a mindset shift. Again, because what you refuse to unlearn, and you have to unlearn the lies. And once you unlearn the lies, guess what? You won't repeat it. And so, if you will, I know we said we gave examples. I just want to know one word, and you can just tell me one word only. What lie are you ready to unlearn about yourself? I know you said value, but give me some more examples. What is one lie that you've been telling yourself recently that you're going to unlearn tonight? Exactly. You have that, and you have that power to control. So now I want to move on to my last point, which is unbind your potential. Maya Angelou said, "You may not control all the events that happen to you, but you can decide not to be reduced by them." I love Maya Angelou. Ain't that it? You may not control all the events that happen to you, but you can decide not to be reduced by them. See, one thing I have learned, you can't always control the pain, the betrayal, the loss, the abandonment, but you can decide to stop letting it bind you. Let me tell you something I had to learn the hard way. Being unbound isn't just about what you walk away from, it's about what you allow yourself to walk into. Again, fresh out of my divorce, I was so wrapped up in being strong, responsible, put together that I didn't realize I was emotionally unavailable, even to myself. I was functioning. I was handling business, parenting like a boss, showing up for everybody, but deep down, I was still unhealed, still unsettled, still uncertain about who I was anymore. I didn't realize how many parts of me were still bound by survival mode, bound by guilt, bound by roles, bound by grief I never had time to sit in. I was out of the relationship, but still tangled in the residue. Can you relate? Let's do a quick poll. Let's do a quick pulse check. Be honest, no judgment here. Which area still bound that feels, which area in your life that still feels bound up in your life right now? And I'm gonna drop some choices in the chat. Don't overthink it, just answer it. It can be your emotions, your confidence, money, relationships, identity. Is there anything that of these answers that relate to you? Okay, we got money. Money makes you feel bound up. Okay. Anything else? Don't overthink it, just type it. For me, it's probably my confidence. So I'm gonna drop B. Yeah, confidence. Same with me. It's always my confidence. For some reason, it always has me bound. And you know what? I'm gonna even go as far to say money too. you know, and if I think about it, I can probably pick a few of these, identity, emotions, relationships. I think, there's some area in all of us that we still feel that's bound up with us right now. And so I'm going to share with you this story that I read in the Bible. And I don't know if you know the story of Lazarus, but I went back and I was reading the story of Lazarus again. But this time when I read the story of Lazarus, something clicked. If we go back in the Bible, and I love to talk about the Bible, Jesus calls him out of the tomb and he comes back to life. If you don't know the story of Lazarus, he was dead, and there was some upset with Jesus because it was Mary and Martha's brother, but he had died. And so when Jesus comes to the tomb again, he calls him back to life. But then Jesus says, unbind him and let him go. When I read that, that really got to me, because even though Lazarus was alive, he was still bound. And Jesus had to tell somebody to go get those grave clothes off him. And that's when it hit me. You can be gifted, you can be anointed, and you can be even healed. But if you're still wrapped up in fear, doubt, shame, or approval addiction, your potential will stay stuck. if we think about it, some of us are bound by comparison. Some of us are bound by perfectionism. Some of us are even bound by fear of success and old identities. There was this one lady that I was coaching. She was brilliant. She was degreed up. She had a great career. She was in leadership. But she had wrapped herself up in hustle. And the thing about hustle and really doing the work, when you hustle, it can really become exhausting. And the thing about her is she didn't know how to dream anymore because she was too busy surviving. And when I asked her, what do you really want to do? She just froze. She just looked staring at me like a deer in headlights. But the thing is, she had so much potential, but it had been buried under years of doing what was safe, what paid the bills, what wouldn't rock the boat. But when she gave herself permission to unbind, when she gave herself permission to unbind, she launched her business. She stepped out and became the bold version of herself she had buried for so long. The thing about it is, it was still in her. That version wasn't dead. She had just been wrapped up too long. So today it's time to unbind your potential. It's time to stop editing your calling because of other people's comfort. It's time to stop asking permission to show up fully. Sometimes I have that issue. Sometimes I'm afraid to just let go because sometimes I don't want people to think I'm team too much. And sometimes I'll stop shrinking myself. But then when I get out there and I have to really give myself a pep talk, it's always in me. It's not dead. But the thing is, the best version of myself, I had wrapped it up just a little bit too long. I had to realize I had to stop editing myself because of other people's comfort and stop asking permission to fully show up. I still struggle with that, but I have to persevere, push through, because I have to share what I have been grown and matured to say to other people. And so in order for us to begin to unbind our potential, we have to recognize what's wrapping us. We have to stop making our limitations our identity. We have to learn to give ourselves permission to be free. You're not team too much. You're just right, and you're exactly where you are supposed to be. So you have to recognize those things. What's wrapping you? Is it the comparison, the perfectionism? Stop making your limitations your identity because you're not, and just give yourself permission to be free and know that you're okay. So tonight, this is your permission slip to stop waiting. You've been called, you've been chosen, and you've been carved out by God Himself. And the only thing stopping you from walking in it is what you're still tied to. If you think about it, what's one thing you're ready to unbind from your life today? One of my platforms is breaking up with perfection. Why? Because I always feel things have to be perfect before I launch them. I always feel like everything has to be in chronological order, going from 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And God forbid if 6 comes before 5. And sometimes I can really get bent out of shape. So I really try to learn and share the things that I go through, knowing and hoping that they're going to help somebody else, like breaking up with perfect. Even my platform, Be Uncompromised, because I'm learning not to compromise myself for anyone, really anybody. And if tonight has done anything, I pray it has unlocked something in you. Not just stirred you, but unlocked. Not just inspired you, but truly unlocked a door that's been shut for far too long. Because the thing about it is, you're not here by accident. This moment was unplanned by you, but unmistakably orchestrated by God. And maybe this is a season where you finally let go and you let God untangle the knots in your life, where you stop underestimating your own brilliance, where you no longer walk around unfinished, waiting on someone else to validate what God has already confirmed. This is your time to become unshaken in your calling, undeniable in your confidence, and unavailable to do anything that doesn't align with who God called you to be. You've been muted, you've been lied to, and you've been tied up and torn down. But now you are unleashed. You are unleashed. So I've got something for the woman who's ready, not just to feel good, but to live free. See, again, after my divorce, becoming a silent mom, after the shame, the silence, the sleepless nights, I wanted to rebuild, but I didn't know how. I didn't need another quote or a quick fix. I needed real guidance, biblical truth, and community. And that's why I created the Uncompromised Life Coaching Experience. It's for the woman who's tired of wearing a cape, hiding her pain behind her paycheck, and showing up for everybody but herself. In my program, it's where you go from unsettled to unshakable. It's where you go from unclear to being unstoppable. Inside my coaching experience, I walk you through faith-led framework that help you rebuild your confidence, reclaim your voice, and redefine what's next on your terms and God's truth. And if you're not ready for a full coaching program just yet, you can start with my book, Embracing Change, Trusting God Through the Transitions of Life, which is now available on Amazon. It's raw, it's real, it's rooted in scripture, and it will help you confront the shame, shift your mindset, and step into the version of you that's been waiting to be reclaimed. So, your next steps, what you can do, you can head over to www.justdawnlove to grab your copy of Embracing Change, Trusting God Through the Transitions of Life, or you can also apply for the Uncompromised Life Coaching Program, or you can just book a Faith Forward session and we can talk about where you are and where you're undeniably trying to go. Because one thing's for sure, you were never created to live afraid, overlooked, or unsure. You were created to live uncompromised, unmovable in your identity, and unbothered by other opinions. Unchained from your past and unapologetically in alignment with your purpose. And I'm not just cheering for you, I can walk with you. So today and going forward, let's unlock the you that was never meant to stay hidden. Again, I'm Coach Dawn, and I'm here. I'm a speaker, author, and a faith-based health and wellness coach, and I support powerful women, all women, but I also love working with divorced and single mothers. I help them unmute their voice, unlearn the lies, and unbind their God-given potential so that they can live bold, healed, and uncompromised. Thank you for joining me tonight. Be well, be blessed.
Oh, Coach Don, this was awesome. I'm gonna have to catch the replay because I was working so hard taking notes. I got the out. You worked me, boy. It was some good stuff. I'm gonna have to go back. I'm going back in the chat, going right back up here in the chat, and I just love so many other things that you said. Oh my God. Let me go. 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 Are you shrinking in rooms you have already outgrown? And you know, the interesting part about that statement that you made is that the fact that we're still in that room, we continue to go in that room,
Exactly.
even though it's no longer serving us. I think that's what we need to question. And I think that's what you are saying to us as part of
Mm-hmm.
the self reflection is why are you continuing to go into those rooms that you
Mm-hmm.
have outgrown? Um, and then truth sounds loud when you've been taught to stay small. It's almost you believe the lies that have been told to you, even though you know they're not true.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I think about this in terms of our young people, but we as adults, this happens to us. We know
Mm-hmm.
it impacts children, but as adults, we hear something over and over and over again, and then we assume that, and how we view ourselves. And so I just found that to be really powerful. And we know we've heard all different versions of your silence is costing people their breakthrough because you are the answer.
Exactly. Exactly.
Individuals who are going through the struggle that you have now overcome. Your life
Exactly.
is a case study and how to walk through and come through on the other side in a positive way. Um, on those situations. So definitely you are they say that we're selfish speakers when
Mm-hmm.
we don't share, don't share
Exactly.
what we've come through, don't share how we've come through it, meaning the details, where we went low and now we're on the other side. And so I really, really like that. And there are so many times where our voice is just muted,
Yeah.
and that whole your voice is not too much, as Black women leaders, which a lot of my clients are
Mm-hmm.
super successful and at times have been told that they're too much. They're too much, they're too loud, they're too confident, they're too aggressive. And it's not aggressiveness, it is just people don't know how to process, their greatness
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
or don't want to accept the fact that they are as great as the and and the things that they're putting out there. And so yeah, I just girl, everything that you can see all my notes here,
I
everything
see
that
how.
I was
Yeah.
typing
I was
myself.
gonna I was gonna share with you. I think sometimes when you go back to those rooms that you've outgrown, I think we stay there because of comfort. We love to play it safe. Even if it's stunting our growth.
Yes, 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 yes. And you stepping on my toes. I mean, that was one of my goals for this year is, I needed to go into rooms where my ideal client was. I was going to the same conferences every year where me and some of my speaker friends, we all meet up, we put it on
Mm-hmm.
our to-do list, but God was calling me to go to other communities where people needed my expertise. And so those communities, I didn't necessarily know individuals in that communities. And so it has been a pure faith walk, to reach out and show up at these conferences where, no one really knows you, and not that I'm insecure or lack confidence. There's some comfort when people know you,
Exactly.
you know,
Exactly.
know you, they know what you're capable of, they may know your receipts. And so when you go into a new community, as our businesses scale, as we, grow, and we go into these new areas, we have to prove ourselves all over again. We have to show ourselves as an expert all over again. And so there
Mm-hmm.
is some discomfort that is associated with that. And to answer one of your questions in there, I answered money. And my issue with money is, not that I can't acquire it, not that I don't believe that I can require, because I obviously I do pretty good in acquiring it. It is I still, for someone who grew up in a humble background, there are some amounts of money that I can't even fathom that I would make. And
Mm.
not realizing, and I understand that God is the God of abundance,
Right. Yeah.
God, He will give you the desires of the heart and what you need to impact and influence his people and to serve his people. But I can't think about being like a multi-millionaire. That to me that still seems far-fetched. But it's
Same. I'm the same way.
yeah, but
I'm the same way.
it's certainly possible. It's certainly possible, and so I have to change my way of thinking. And I don't know if it's tied to confidence. It's not necessarily tied to confidence. I think it is what you. I don't know. I have to see myself getting closer to it to know that it's attainable. Right now, I'm still a good ways from it.
Look, Dr. Care, I think we all are.
Yeah, I'm still a good ways from it, so it still look like that unheard of dream or goal or whatever. But I do believe that if I do the work and I continue to associate with individuals who can provide the knowledge and they have also walked that walk,
Yeah,
that's how I am joining new communities of people who are multi seven figures because they've already accomplished that. And I am learning from them. And that's why I tell people I will forever be a student because you have to be
exactly.
a student to be able to learn from others. And so all of this stuff is good, good, good. And so we will post this with your full bio so that the sister leaders community can get familiar with your lane of brilliance and your coaching program and your book. And if you could say the name of your book one more time, because I had my head down and then I think I missed a part of the title. That's why I didn't type it.
Oh, okay. It's called Embracing Change, Trusting God Through the Transitions of Life.
Okay, hold on.
Yeah.
Change. Mm-hmm. Transitions in life, embrace
Transitions of life, of life. Yeah.
of life, of life.
Yeah.
I just want to have it in the chat. Book, Embracing Change, Trusting God Through the Transitions of Life. And that
Yep.
is the book. All
That
right.
is my book.
Okay. I am excited. So we are going to close this Sister Leaders Expert session. Make sure that you catch the replay. I'll be catching a replay because Coach Don won't be working me to death in the replay. I can just sit back and enjoy like everybody else. And make sure that I can kind of correlate my notes with her teaching so that I can whatever I need to And so absolutely whatever, because you had a whole lot of uns in this, and I'm sure quite a few of them, more than one, is applicable to me. And so I certainly want to undo anything. I did write down when you first started speaking, is reverse. And for me, it is reverse thinking or whatever it is that you're thinking, think the
Yeah.
opposite of it. If you,
Exactly. That's the
if it's
power
negative,
of un. Yeah.
yeah, that's right. And so certainly want to do that. And so I'm going to close out this expert session, but I will be remiss if I didn't talk about the fact that Coach Don will be hitting the stage at the Sister Leaders Community, um, Sister Leaders Conference, Community Conference at the Rivers Casino on October 3rd and 4th. We are going back to the Rivers Casino. Y'all, they let us back up in there. We sold the place out last
And
year.
this
So
is your fifth one.
yes, this is our 5th year birthday, so we're gonna party because we got to act up on our birthday. But she will be among the other great voices that you will hear, and I am excited about this year because this year's theme is her vision, her voice, her victory, and so we can do a lot with that. Of course, we need to say things and make it plain. We need to have a plan as to what God has for us to use our talents, which is our vision. And we know if we speak it into existence and we do the work, that we will be victorious. And that's where the theme came from, her voice, her vision, and her victory. And so October 3rd and 4th, we will be at the Rivers Casino. Tickets are already on sale for the early bird discount, so make sure you get the early bird discount before that expire. The conference website is Sister Leaders with a S conference.com. Everything is up. Everything is applicable. Check out some of the other speakers that will be gracing the stage. And of course, we'll have our virtual kickoff on Thursday, the Thursday before the live conference. And so you'll be able to hear Dawn again, as well as some other speakers in the virtual presentation as well. And so I'm going to bid you a good evening and bye.
Bye. Take care, Dr. Karen.
All right.
Bye
Don't
bye. Thank you all.
oh,
Thank you to my family that joined.
that's okay. And don't go nowhere, Dawn. Hold on.
Okay.